Today I want to talk about the design of my evergreen privacy screen. I'm growing this in Middle Tennessee, and growing evergreens in Middle Tennessee comes with several challenges. Mostly temperature, because it gets pretty hot here in the summer. It's very humid, and also in the winter it can get fairly cold, down to the single digits or even below zero on rare occasions. And also, in general, Middle Tennessee doesn't have the greatest soil. There's a lot of clay, so the drainage is not that great. And when you add to that the very moist climate, you get a situation that's difficult for a lot of evergreens. So my strategy has been to have a very diverse planting of different species, and especially not too many species that are closely related, but a wide variety of species. And you can see here in this view I've got several different things ranging from pine to cypress to cedar to juniper, all in one little spot. And the idea here is that if a certain pest or fungal pathogen or severe weather event affects one species of tree, maybe it won't affect the others. So what I'm trying to do is hedge my bets and diversify my risk by having a wide variety of evergreens planted. If you're going for a very uniform look where everything looks the same, this won't work for you. But I would advise against that, because a hedge or privacy screen composed of one single species can be wiped out by a single pathogen, and there's nothing you can do. So the idea here is maximum species diversity. And let me rotate to the back side here and show you another little feature. On the back you can see there's actually a few more species, and that's the other part of my strategy, is to have multiple rows kind of overlapping or offsetting each other, so that if I do lose one, I don't lose 100% of my privacy. And you can see here that practice in action. This was an Arizona cypress, Carolina sapphire, and it was killed when the temperature dropped to -4, which I didn't know it was susceptible to that cold weather when I planted it. And it was already pretty large when it died, maybe 10 or more feet tall. But because I have several other things planted around it that are not Carolina sapphire, the privacy screen is still in full force. You can see there's some spruces here on this side. There's a little Japanese plum yew on this side, which as of this moment isn't doing too much to provide privacy screening, but as it gets larger it will. And this tree here in the middle, the blue Atlas cedar, is kind of see-through, transparent, but it will fill out and fill in over time and grow pretty tall, actually. So eventually it will become a regular sized tree. That this one is a little bit affected by the cold, but not as much as the Carolina sapphire. So without getting into too many details about the various species, which you can find all about those on my other videos, today I just wanted to focus on privacy screen design. Let's take another look at a different section. It seems that my privacy screen is always in a state of evolution as I discover one species can't survive in Middle Tennessee and replace it with a different one. And as you might suspect, I quickly exhausted the inventory of species that are commonly sold at retailers and specialty nurseries around here, and had to resort to ordering online. And one thing that's for sure is that the selection of species online far exceeds anything you might find at your local nursery. So you can see here my front line of defense here is several very small trees, some of them very recently planted, you can tell by the fresh dirt. And I've started to diversify away from what started as a conifer collection into including broadleafed evergreens. And if you're not familiar with that term, a broadleaf evergreen is just a tree that has leaves instead of needles, and it keeps its leaves all winter long. So there you can see, still very mixed, and I've done a lot of recent planting. I'm also starting to put in this rock border around here. I'm going to come in and fill rock mulch in around here, but I just want to show you the overall look of this at the moment. There is a planting of 5 Leland cypresses there at the back, and then there's 4 more Thuja green giants there, and 3 Arizona cypresses in a row, but everything else is highly mixed. The older ones I planted first, and as time went on and I lost more trees, I became more motivated to diversify my species much more aggressively. So I haven't planted 3 of one thing in a long time now, a couple years at least. Here's a view looking a long ways. You can see once again a variety of things planted in this one little shot. Firs, spruces, pines, some hollies in the back. I just planted this Carolina laurel there. So still very active planting. And in this section over here where I lost some deodar cedars, I've been planting a lot of hollies because I was worried about root rot. So still some active planting going on there. There's an incense cedar right there. Some more firs in the foreground here. And a magnolia peeking out back there. So I just try to have a very wide variety. And I plant them according to the specific planting needs. Like if something can tolerate more shade, I'll put it in an area where I know it's going to be partially shaded at some point during the day. But if it needs full sun, I'll put it on the front row, like this Taiwan fir right here. It could probably tolerate a little shade, but I think it's probably slower growing than some other things, so I have it on the front row. This is just looking further back into the lot where I have, once again, a very wide variety of things planted and this little path running down the middle. I lost a number of trees to cold weather, so I've been slowly over time digging out the roots and replanting as soon as possible, but it takes quite a while to do something like that. And here's another view showing the mixture of spruces and cedars, arbor vitaes, and a few other little bits and pieces mixed in here and there. Over time, I'm going for a very tall privacy screen. I'm not really trying to keep anything low. I would like for these trees to grow as tall as possible. And so far, they're getting pretty tall. Here's another shot showing the continual evolution of the evergreen collection. You can see some very small spruces and firs planted in the front here, and then behind them some much larger ones that were planted earlier. The bluish one in the middle is the Berkey red cedar, one of the best ones from Middle Tennessee. And then I've got a wide variety of other little trees I'm trying. And this is pretty much what the finished product will look like when it's done. I plan to have the gray paved stone or paver brick border with the white rock mulch underneath the lowest evergreens, which are placed on the sun-facing edge of the planting. And then behind that, the taller background trees, which will provide the first wave of defense. And then as those are lost or hollow out and become non-privacy screening underneath as the branches die out because of shading, then the lower understory trees in front will grow up and take their place, so that over time I'll have continual privacy screening. And you can see in this little section here I have a variety of spruces, firs, there's some broadleaf evergreens like laurels, pyracanthus, elaeagnus. There's a juniper there on the left side. And then moving on down, little Douglas fir there in the sunlight. It's kind of an experiment. And I've got some Leland cypress here, and that's behind this Elysium parviflorum, which has done very well. So overall, there's still a lot of work to be done. I've got a lot of planting to do and a lot of roots to dig out. You can see there's some gaps where I lost trees, but taking a step back and looking at the overall plan, it's kind of starting to come together. You can just imagine once I finally have my border in place around the back and the trees grow taller and fill in the gaps, the end goal is a solid green wall as tall as possible that will be evergreen year-round. That's the design.